Welcome back from the break. You're still watching This Week, and I'm Sumner Sambo, and we now go on to the dilemma of the fuel subsidy removal. Now, the nagging issue of the proposed fuel subsidy removal and the challenges that may come with it appears to be one big problem that is facing the outgoing and incoming administrations. The Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria, IPMAN, in its idea of addressing the subsidy issue, had written to the federal government through the Minister of Finance to release the 250 billion naira intervention fund for the National Gas Expansion Program as loans to vehicle owners to acquire gas conversion kits as a way of moving away from that. Well, auto manufacturer Inosi Motors is also saying that it can help the federal government to help to meet some of the goals of the National Gas Expansion Project. This follows the announcement by the company that it had launched a line of liquefied natural gas, LNG, and compressed natural gas, CNG vehicles. This is just as the federal government has announced an $800 million World Bank grant as part of its subsidy palliative measures ahead of the removal, and it's also planning to increase the wages of federal government staff before the subsidy removal. The government says the issue of the fuel subsidy removal will be done in June in such a manner that Nigerians will not feel the pains. Well, to help us shed light on this controversial issue, joining us in the studio is the president of the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria, IPMAN, Cinedu Okorokwo, and we have with us also an oil and gas expert who's also the managing director of Gas Analytics and Solutions, Brian Amono. Thank you so much. And I start with you, IPMAN President Elder Cinedu Okorokwo. You know, a lot of Nigerians were taken by surprise when your letter was leaked to the press that you had written to the government proposing alternatives, and that you also reached out to the Nigeria Labour Congress to see how this fuel subsidy removal does not, become like the issue we had in 2012 when on 1st of January people woke up to hear that fuel subsidy had been removed, and it turned to a national security issue.
Yeah, thank you, Sambo. First of all, I want to say happy celebration to our Muslim brothers. I think independent petroleum marketers of Nigeria have gone a long way in providing solution that will act as a succor. What is that solution? A country that is endowed with this gas that is fled every day in megatons. And when you compare it with the cost of PMS or AGO or even kerosene.
AGO is
automotive gas oil for bigger trucks, yeah. PMS for smaller trucks.
Which is diesel.
Diesel. I want to tell you that we cannot fixate our effort only in one product, one commodity, PMS, whereas there is this abundance of natural gas. And IPMAN, in their wisdom, have reached out to a serious company that have the solution that can make us enjoy this product without even feeling the pinch of this removal. I think life is about change. We have been battling subsidy, but if we deploy this technology, the country will have serious succor, both in their car, in their generating set, and even in cooking.
Yeah, in your letter, you were asking of the 250 billion naira to be given out through the National Gas Expansion Project to car owners, and a lot of people were confused. How are you going to do that?
Okay, it's very simple. This business cannot work without creating the market. The gas has been there since the inception of oil discovery, being fled. And we have now decided, look, we are not talking about giving us the money, but create this market, a market of over 200 million people. Now we are laying pipe, maybe 600 and something kilometers, because
6,000.
6,000 kilometers, because we're looking for Europe market. Whereas
That's the AKK gas project.
and other things. Whereas we can, within 5 kilometers, a lot of homes will be using it.
Okay.
That way,
I think
we will be saving this country billions of dollars in importation, and utilization will deepen. I think that is why we have reached out to them with their technology.
all right, and I'll bring you in here, Brian. You're an oil and gas expert. We've seen several initiatives, including Innocent Motors now saying that they are bringing the, liquefied, the LPG. And then I also had CNG, the compressed natural gas, also solutions. And then you also hear some people saying that it may take a long period of time before we can convert some of the cars to use the CNG, which had been proposed by federal government before, including NIPCO using it. Over the years, we haven't heard so much. Talk to us about all of this.
Sure, thank you so much, Sambo, and happy Eid celebrations to our Muslim brothers and sisters. So to buttress what the Ipman president just said, we have the demand here in Nigeria, but we don't have the market. There's a huge difference between demand and market. And to create a market similar to what India and Egypt did, we need to provide loans to people in order for them to afford to convert their vehicles in sufficient masses, right? We're not looking at converting 1 or 2 vehicles. You need to convert sufficient number of vehicles to justify IPMAN members borrowing money to build filling stations, to justify the gas producers borrowing money to build gas processing plants, right? So I'll use Keke as an example. Keke is the fastest selling vehicle in Nigeria today. There are close to 1 million registered Keke and many more unregistered Keke vehicles today. So let's say the Keke driver consumes 1 full tank of Keke in a day, which is 13 liters, right? At a landing cost of 450 naira a liter today, to refuel 1 million Keke, we'll have to spend about 2-point-something trillion naira. To convert that to dollars is $4.7 billion to refuel 1 million Keke, right? Whereas we can deliver natural gas today in Kano, far away from the gas source, at 130 naira a liter, right? So imagine, for 130 naira a liter, the 1 million Keke consuming 13 liters of petrol a day, the equivalent is close to 600 billion naira. So you're going to be, and then the unsubsidized price of fuel, which is expected to hit 750 naira a liter. So to fuel 1 million Keke consuming 13 liters a day, you're talking about the Keke owners spending close to 3 trillion naira every year.
And that's
right?
where the controversy lies, actually. But some of these solutions that are being brought and proposed by different individuals on how to use the CNG, when you flip it around and see what NIPCO had been doing with the CNG in Benin and all these years, people are taken aback to say, look, for you to convert an average vehicle, maybe it takes you between 400,000 to 500,000. So where's the money going to come from? And how many people can afford such?
Sure.
And so that's why we are interested in some of these solutions. How are Nigerians going to use this? And then, of course, the government. What's been the government's reaction to all of these suggestions?
The government's reaction has been quite encouraging. We met the President Buhari last year on this, telling him that we've partnered with IPMAN to deploy this solution, and we sought his support. So the presidency, through the Chief of Staff, wrote to NMDPRA, the regulator, who has set up a committee to support the implementation of this project. So the reason why it's taking a little bit of time is we want to scale the solution to address the huge problem that is there, right? The problem is huge. The solution has to be ambitious. And what IPMAN president said regarding setting aside some of that 250 billion that has been approved today.
So that those funds are with the CBN?
Yes. So,
like I had read. Now, how are Nigerians going to access such funds?
So we've approached NISL, because NISL has a platform that makes it possible for them to disburse small amount of money to millions of Nigerians. So to convert a Keke, for example, is 200,000 naira, right? So for 200 billion, you will convert 1 million Keke, 200 billion naira, right? And that conversion will save the country the equivalent of $4.7 billion every single year. that conversion will save the keke operators close to 3 trillion naira every year that goes into their pocket, which they can spend on education, on healthcare, and that conversion will reduce air pollution. If you look at some of our cities, they have the worst air pollution records. In India, for example, in New Delhi, the only vehicles that are allowed, commercial keke vehicles that are allowed are gas-fueled keke, right? Gas-fueled vehicles. So natural gas is a solution that solves a lot of problems. And to add quickly, Sambo, if you consider insecurity, right? Fighting insecurity is not only providing AK-47 night vision goggles, etc. You know, most Nigerians know that oftentimes when you call police to respond to an incident, they don't have fuel in their vehicle because they almost never have enough petrol to support the operations. So what would happen when fuel subsidy is removed and petrol goes to 750? Whereas with CNG, you're delivering a cheaper gas for security vehicles. And we've written to police. Police has given us approval to convert their vehicles to CNG. Okay,
well, that would be a very, very dynamic way of using our resources to actually cope lots of problems. Now, let's talk about how feasible this is. Ipman, when you wrote to the Minister of Finance and all of that, outlining some of these solutions that you had reached, I would want to find out. We have a government that's outgoing which says that by June they are going to remove this fuel subsidy. And the incoming government will be taking over on May 29. Now, how fast can some of these problems, these solutions be put on ground so that we do not have chaos? And then if you're going to be removing fuel subsidy and it's going to be 750 naira per litre, as we're hearing, isn't there going to be chaos? What do we need to do urgently, both by the outgoing and incoming government?
Thank you, Sambo. See, for us, you must get this thing clearly. We're not asking for this money, maybe you take it and you pocket it. It will act like a soft loan where people like you can convert and pay gradually.
Okay, so I can take my car, is it to the central bank or where to get
like
the loan?
Like this NISA.
Okay. NISA, which is under the central bank. Yeah, NISA microfinance.
Then they will give you maybe this 400,000. Every month, maybe they might be removing 5,000 naira, you might not even know. Take it maybe some years you would have paid off. This money will still go back to the government. Okay? What you said about timeline, that is why government is a continuous process. It's better we start it with this government. It doesn't take more than 3 months to get this market we are talking about. Because why other governments have failed, they have refused to see the problem of creating market. People will not just take their gas without getting the market where they will sell it. All these OICs, they have invested, they need, even if they are flaring it. But the moment this market is developed, they will begin to make money.
Yeah, that's the IOCs, International Oil Companies.
Good. The individuals, the citizens, will have cheaper fuel and friendly fuel. In your generator, you will have, because even the mileage is more.
Okay, Brian, I'll bring you back here. What's the difference between this CNG and then the renewable energy, the electric vehicles that we're hearing? A lot of Nigerians may not understand the difference because we're looking for cleaner energy now, and those are some of your proposals to the government. Talk to us about the difference, and then is there any country in Africa that will have this experiment so that we don't start something that will be in trouble?
So CNG is mostly natural gas, and while electric vehicle is cleaner than natural gas, we don't have the electricity infrastructure, cannot support massive deployment of electric vehicles. So Egypt, for example, to support the transition from petrol and diesel, got facility and then provided their citizens, particularly commercial vehicles, 10-year loan, 3% interest to exchange their old vehicles for new biofuel vehicles. Mind you, this is not 100%. Most of the conversion is, the vehicles will not run 100% on natural gas. You push a button, you switch to petrol, you push that same button, you switch to natural gas, right? So that is how Egypt was able to accomplish significant mileage in transitioning vehicles from from petrol to natural gas. And the other benefit is Nigeria has made so many commitments towards decarbonizing the economy, right? If you take into account that most significant majority of the vehicles we have are 20 years old, right? And they emit 60% more greenhouse gases than natural gas. So we have the added benefit of having vehicles that run on cleaner energy. And a lot of people have been talking about refineries. Look at the world we are in today, Sambo. Where are you going to get money to build refinery? The world is
but the government has to account for the monies that they've used to set up the ongoing refineries that they are rehabilitating and the old ones, including the new ones. Like, for example, Nigeria has some shares in Dangote refinery. So all of those things, are you saying that we shouldn't be asking our government to give accounts?
No, sure. So what I'm saying, we should look at a pragmatic solutions. Natural gas is not going to displace petrol. 100%. Egypt today has 3,000 CNG stations. They've deployed an aggressive plan to increase that number to 10,000 stations, notwithstanding the electric vehicle. If electric vehicle was that available, 100% of the vehicles in the US, Europe will be running on electric. We cannot afford it. The next best thing is natural gas. The international sophisticated lenders consider it a transition fuel, so it's easier to get loans to build out natural gas infrastructure, and almost impossible to get loans to build crude oil refineries. And in terms of lead time, you can, in 6 months, if funds are available today, you can have CNG dispensers, the entire supporting infrastructure through 8-man platform. In every nook and cranny, Nigerians can start benefiting from
Okay, the CNG that you're talking about. Now, let's talk about the petroleum industry. There are lots of, bulwarks here and there. People who have invested massively in owning the chain for the supply of petroleum products, including Ipman here. Don't you think that will be displacing them? What should the government be doing so that they also don't sabotage this transition period? Because if you have people who have built, those massive infrastructure, they may want to...
That is why we are routing for this. It's going to act as an additional income to my members. For instance, you are selling fuel. Fuel is not for clothes. Diesel is not for clothes. But this is an additional what? Product that will create wealth, both for the nation, for my members. It's going to be a win-win situation. It doesn't foreclose the usage of fuel.
You don't think all those people are importing fuel with the huge tank farms in Lagos everywhere?
If refineries are working, will they import again? The answer is no. Rather, those refineries will begin to export to countries that have not gotten enough gas to power their energy. It will create wealth.
Okay, Brian, let's talk about the issue of political will here. When it comes to new innovation like this, people are very skeptical because we've seen lots of policies coming and then midway they just crack and a lot of people are left hanging. People go with petrol because that's what they are used to over the years and it's easier for them. This compressed natural gas you're talking about, if I convert my car and I get to somewhere where the CNG breaks down or it's exhausted, how do I refill when you don't have that chain all across the country like the way you have petrol outlets across the country? What's like the next thing to do?
All right, Sambo, regarding the political will, like I said, we met with the president last year, presented this partnership and solution, and every support that we requested, we have gotten it in writing. So the presidency, the various agencies that are stakeholders in this are actively working to support.
That's the outgoing presidency.
Yes,
because there's going to be an incoming presidency.
Continuous process.
So we have gotten tremendous support from them. And with regards to the infrastructure, so that's why we partnered with 8-man. So when you go to buy petrol, for example, you're not just paying for that petrol, right? You're paying for the cost of the building, the generating sets, the dispenser, etc. So with 8-man already having existing infrastructure, the cost to set up by co-locating CNG filling stations, the capex to deliver this is going to be a lot lower than if you were to build new CNG stations all over, right? And the speed to market will be a lot faster. And regarding conversion, so 8-man has over 30,000 active and inactive filling stations, right? And every single one of those filling stations have an auto workshop. So to retrofit those auto workshops to serve as conversion and post-conversion maintenance centers, it can take 2 days, right? So keke would take 2 hours to convert. So if they're converting, if the 30,000, of course, we're not going to set up filling station on the 30,000. We'll probably start with 2,000, right? But all 30,000 can be retrofitted to serve as conversion centers. So if they're only converting 2 vehicles, that means we can convert 60,000 vehicles a day. This will create a lot of jobs. And we're deploying a franchising model for this co-location to allow Nigerians to also invest in the deployment of this infrastructure. And to ensure that this is something that is bankable, we're deploying electronic payment, right? So that tomorrow you can't say someone attacked me, stole all my money, so I can't pay back. So this will give assurance to a lot of Nigerians in diaspora to invest in expanding this CNG infrastructure, right? This is the type of foreign direct investment we need. So if you borrow $1 to build refinery, you're going to have to pay it back, right, in dollars. But with Nigeria being the 3rd highest remittance in terms of foreign diaspora, right, over $30 billion a year, they can invest in this. They don't mind receiving naira. So, but we want to work with it. We're working with Ipman to create a business model that creates a transparent revenue that will encourage.
So if my CNG finishes on the way, what do I do?
So like I said, is buy fuel, right? So if your CNG finishes, you push a button, it switches to petrol, and of course, accessibility to petrol. It's assured.
Okay.
Right.
So, well, as we try to round off this conversation, I'm interested in the Ipman's view about the $800 million grant. Some people say it's a loan and all of that, which the federal government says is going to give to about 10 million households and eventually to have a multiplier effect that will affect about 50 million Nigerians. What do you make of that? Or shouldn't we be even putting the monies into maybe this kind of solutions?
Well, I think the government thinking is to reduce the suffering of the vulnerable people. We are not against it. But what we are looking at a situation when you are giving somebody fish to eat. After eating that fish, can he continue with that fish? That is why this solution will act as a sucker. By the time they start knowing what we're doing, and that they will still get even food cheaper, because this will translate to a lot of things. The trucks bringing this food from the north maybe to the south normally we use close to 1.something million. A situation where within diesel, where with 200,000 or 300,000 naira, it will also transcend. So we are trying to see what we can do to reduce the impact of hardship. And this is the solution. I think by the time the market is created, government has to create this market. It's important. Yeah,
and very quickly, when you say create this market, I want to hear from your own perspective. What exactly is the government's role? I mean, there are private investors who want to get into this. What should be government's role, especially in this market that you're talking about? What sort of guarantees should the private sector investors be expecting from the government?
So the guarantees that the most sophisticated private investors and lenders want is, do you have a market that can take these products called gas and pay for it, right? So once that market is there, vis-a-vis the 250 billion gas expansion facility, it will catalyze investment in the infrastructure, and both have to happen concurrently. As you're converting vehicles, you're building out the infrastructure, right? It is critical. Like Elder said earlier, you have Ebema power plant sitting on an ocean of gas. No oil company wants to lay 18-kilometer pipeline to sell them gas, because they know if they sell them gas, they evacuate that power, they deliver it to discos. Discos can't accept it. If they accept it, they don't pay for it, right? But Nigeria has advanced negotiations to build a 6,000-kilometer pipeline to Morocco, because they know the market is there. The most critical thing is for government to provide access to funding, which is already earmarked to support gas expansion and investment. Ipman already and ourselves have concluded arrangements with development financial institutions to fund the infrastructure.
All right. That's a very important place to actually leave this conversation. But one thing that actually struck me out of all of this is that a lot of Nigerians could actually convert their generating sets too, considering the power crisis that we have across the country. A lot of people would like to hear that. I mean, that would be good news if they could convert their cars, convert their generating sets and other things. I mean, that will be energy security for everybody. Indeed. From low to the highest. But we must thank you so much. Brian Amono is an oil and gas expert and is the MD of Gas Analytics and Solutions. And of course, Elder Cinedu Okorokwo here is the president of the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria, IPMAN. You always like to be called elder. We must thank you for this elderly perspective. And we hope the Nigerian government, both the outgoing and incoming one, will manage the fuel subsidy removal in such a way that we don't have a national security issue like it happened in 2012. Well, this is where we'll have to draw the curtains today on the program. On behalf of our teams in London, Lagos, and here in Abuja, thank you for watching and do enjoy the rest of your week. I'm Sam Sambo.